Don Ritchie, the Angel of the Gap. In 1965, a woman stepped toward the edge of a cliff in Sydney, ready to end her life. But just at that moment, a stranger's voice piped up behind her. "Can I interest you in a cup of tea?" It seemed like a strange offer, but she didn't feel like she had anything else to live for, so why not? She didn't know it yet, but she had just met Don Ritchie, otherwise known as the Angel of the Gap. Since moving across the road from the cliff in 1964, Don discovered that the popular location wasn't just being visited for its breathtaking scenery. After witnessing someone take their own life off the cliff, Don decided he would never let that happen again. From that moment on, whenever he spotted someone walking a little too close to the edge, he made it his mission to approach them, offering a cup of tea or a beer and listening to their story. Most of the time, this quiet, endearing approach worked. Don's warmth and genuine interest in people's lives often became the lifeline they didn't know they needed. On rare occasions, when words weren't enough, Don would risk his own life by physically holding them back and pulling them to safety. Through his 86 years on Earth, it is said that Don saved over 160 lives, though the real number may be much higher. Don Ritchie's story compels us to reflect on deep philosophical questions about the nature of life, suffering, and the moral responsibility we hold for one another. His simple but profound actions can be understood through various philosophical lenses, each offering insight into why his acts of kindness resonate so deeply. One of the key philosophical perspectives that illuminate Don Ritchie's actions is that of Emmanuel Levinas, a French philosopher who explored the concept of ethics as an encounter with the other. Levinas argues that the face of another person calls us to respond. It is in the face of the other, especially in their vulnerability, that we are ethically compelled to act. When Don Ritchie saw someone standing at the edge of the cliff, he didn't see just a person contemplating suicide. He saw a human being in pain, calling for help, even if unspoken. His offer of tea or a conversation wasn't merely a distraction, it was an ethical response to the call of the other. In Levinasian terms, Don wasn't just trying to save lives, he was responding to the ethical demand that the presence of another person, especially one in suffering, commands. His intervention wasn't just a nice gesture, it was a moral imperative rooted in empathy and compassion. Immanuel Kant, another philosopher, would argue that Don's actions were in line with a duty-based ethics or deontology. According to Kant, moral actions are those performed out of a sense of duty, regardless of the consequences. Kant believed that we must treat others as ends in themselves, not merely as means to an end. For Don Ritchie, saving someone's life wasn't about personal gain or recognition. It was simply about doing what he believed was morally right. Even if the people he helped never thanked him or even remembered him, Don saw their lives as valuable, and his duty was to protect that value. In this sense, his actions align with Kant's notion that moral duty transcends the individual's desires and extends toward the inherent dignity of others. Don's story also resonates with the existentialist philosophy of Albert Camus, who famously explored the concept of the absurd. Camus argued that life is inherently meaningless, but that it is our responsibility to find meaning in it, despite its inherent absurdity. Life for Camus is a struggle against despair, and the act of living itself is a form of rebellion against the absurd. In this context, Don's quiet but powerful interventions represent a rebellion against despair. By offering a cup of tea, by speaking with someone at the brink of suicide, Don was affirming life in the face of its absurdity. He wasn't simply distracting people from their suffering. He was offering them a moment of connection, a reminder that life could still have meaning, even in its darkest moments. For Camus, the act of embracing life in the face of its inherent absurdity is what makes life worth living. Don's actions embodied this idea, showing that even small, seemingly insignificant acts of kindness can have a profound impact on someone's life. At the same time, Don's legacy invites us to reflect on the interconnectedness of all human lives. Each person he saved didn't just survive, they returned to their families, their friends, their communities. Don's actions created ripples, touching lives he would never know. This interconnectedness is a core principle in Buddhist philosophy, which teaches that all things are interdependent. Even the smallest act of kindness, the briefest moment of connection, can have far-reaching consequences, often beyond our understanding. Don Ritchie never sought recognition for his work. To him, it wasn't heroic, it was simply the right thing to do. Yet his story challenges us to think about our own lives. How often do we notice the struggles of those around us, and are we willing to step forward, even in small ways, to offer help? Don's actions remind us that even in a world filled with suffering, we have the power to make a difference. It doesn't take grand gestures or extraordinary acts to change someone's life. Sometimes, all it takes is a cup of tea and a listening ear. As we reflect on Don's life, we are left with questions that invite introspection. Could you be someone's lifeline in their darkest moment? What would you do if you saw someone standing on the edge, both literally and metaphorically? Don Ritchie's story is a powerful reminder that kindness and connection can make all the difference. What do you think? Does his story inspire you to believe in the transformative power of small acts of compassion? Could you see yourself stepping forward to help someone in need? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. If you're not subscribing to the Yusafi channel, you're probably never going to see us again. But if you are, then congratulations, you're growing every day.